I'm on holiday, so it's gonna be a little bit on the more difficult side of things. But yeah, let me know if everything works, audio, video, all that kind of stuff. And if it does, I can start. If not, I'll have to do some stuff to fix it. Does it work? And I'm gonna have to go back and forth. I really should bring like two laptops or something to make this experience easier. Yeah, everything works. Nice. Perfect. So I'll switch back and forth. Hope that doesn't get too annoying just to be able to interact. Um, but yeah, let's get into it. The sponsor of the show, as always, usually FTX. This time also FTX. Their links are in the description. If you want to check them out, you should. I think they have the best mobile app in the game, in the crypto game. So if you do anything on your mobile, that's the place to go to. And yeah, they support us, so always nice to give them a shout out. It's a well deserved one anyway. So yeah, price has been going down since last we spoke, and looking kind of rough. Not gonna lie, on the higher time frames, especially like looking at the monthly here. I've talked about this a million times that you don't really want to be seeing supports be retested just after they've been tested, right? The most important supports should just be like you have a line and price comes in and it really should bounce and not come back. But obviously, that's not the case here. It's just been like bounce from monthly support, and that's it, all the way back down to monthly support just 2 months after. Not the best in the world. Obviously, still support. So if you're like starting to turn bearish here again, I think that's a mistake. And as you can see from the title, um, I've compared Bitcoin, or like I said that, is this the same thing as 6K, right? And we can just talk about like if it is, what would be the case, right? Like how would we trade from here on out? And in my opinion, that would just be like we'd just be somewhere here uh, during these like down months that we've had in 2018. And then we'd have like there's a chance that it just has like a little bit of a bounce before it goes down, right? So if it plays out the same way, the support holds for another time, just like it did in 2018, right? Now, I don't really like, I'm not team fractals too much. I don't think it makes much sense to just be like, okay, how did this play out years and years ago? And is it going to, and it's 100% going to play out the same way? Because that's never the case, right? Nothing's just a mirror image of something. It's just, I mean, there's a saying like history never repeat, but it rhymes, right? And I think that's the case here as well. You don't want to just look at the charts and make the comparison, and then just play it one to one. You kind of have to factor in, okay, what was the market then, how it is now, and obviously a lot of other factors, right? The market is much, much bigger than it was back in 2018. But if it is the same, we have to have some months on the support before it breaks down. And I think like if it does break down, I'm very positive that we're going to spring up just like we did back then. Now, we don't really have to have this shakeout. A bunch of people, and I'm sure you guys have been in that camp, like at least some of you have been in that camp, uh, argued for a blow off top, right? We haven't had a blow off top, so we can't be in a bear market. And that's gotten them nowhere, right? It's gotten them wrecked, basically. Bitcoin hasn't had a blow off top. It did in 2018 or like end of 2017. And it doesn't have to have like the same capitulation bottom that it had either, right? It doesn't have to do it. It would obviously be nice for a trader like me or some of you to do the same thing because that's like relatively easy to trade, right? From like just looking at it in hindsight, right? This was obviously really, really hard. Like I bought 4K back in the day and then it went all the way down to like almost 3K. And I was freaking out because like basically my entire net worth was in this thing. And I didn't buy the bottom with my first buy. I bought a bunch more at the lows, but I didn't buy the bottom. And then I saw like 25% losses, right? Which on your net worth kind of sucks. So it's easy in hindsight to say, okay, this was a nice buy, but obviously not the case while you're doing it. But yeah, so monthly right now, doing relatively similar things, I think, than we did in 2018. Not entirely sure if the comparison is fair to make, but I think it makes sense to talk about it anyway, just based on the fact that it's kind of behaving very similar besides like the blow off top stuff. Um, it's grinding into support. The market has like lost most of its newer participants already, and usually what happens is they get shaken out and then it starts going again. This time around, we don't really have much retail interest at all, and we're still not going up. So that's very, very similar to 2018. We still have like a few coins that go up from now and again, but it's not the entire sector. It's very much so that like the liquidity that is still in the market just goes from one project to the other, and people get bled dry. So definitely some similarities there, but I still think like in the end, even if it did play out the same way, it'd be bullish, right? But that's just the monthly, right? And like I said, technically wise, right? Even like ignoring all this fractal bullshit because you don't really have to trade fractals and you really shouldn't. It's just something that you can keep in your mind, right? But just technical wise, this is still support, right? And just because it's been tested once doesn't mean it has to fail on the second test, right? So there's some hope that this holds, but the more often it gets tested, the less likely I'm going to be buying it, right? It's just, I mean, for the obvious reason that the more often it gets tested, the less buyers there are, right? Imagine just you having a buy there and you get filled and then it comes back, maybe you buy a little bit more, but at some point you've been buying, right? And you've been filled completely. You have interest, or a bunch of people have interest to buy the level. And then if it goes too often to that level, all of that interest is filled, right? And there's still no positive price action to be had. So it's more likely to go down than up. And then the people that bought the level are all underwater. And that leads to panic selling more often than not. So that's why I don't like to buy these levels that get tested over and over and over again. But I think this is still a valid one. Like if you want to be looking for like buys, I still think like this monthly support is the area to do so, right? Only problem that we have right now that makes that a little bit harder to do is obviously the S&P, which has been struggling quite a lot. You just look at this chart, and it's funny to say just looking at the high time frame charts, but if you're looking at the lower time frames on the S&P, that's been struggling. You can actually turn on the weekly; it's nicer. And if that kind of maintains its bearishness, right, we obviously are going to feel it in crypto as well. There's no escaping this. So I honestly think a lot of the bearishness that we've had in crypto has been because of this. Because the last 4 weeks been terrible for the traditional markets. You don't have to look at the S&P. You can look at the Nasdaq. You can look at any other traditional market really. It's the same all over the place. And this doing poorly just reflects in the crypto prices, right? And you can see how this looks like low. The last four weeks, right, look better on Bitcoin actually than they look on the S&P. The S&P rallied from the lows and is right back at the lows. And Bitcoin is still a little bit above, not much, but a little bit above. So that's at least something, like some strength there, but it's nothing to really write home about. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. It's not the easiest market conditions to trade. That's basically why I'm on vacation again, because I'm just like, fuck this. This kind of weekly close. It's just like really shitty. You have like a false breakout. We've talked about this a bunch of times on the show, where you've done it here, right? False breakout. And excuse my drawing skills. I'm doing this on like this on a laptop without a mouse. So it's the same thing, really. This is on a higher time frame, right? You have like a range breakout that fails to materialize any kind of positive move. Same thing here, right? So just based on this, it makes sense to be like leaning a little bit on the bearish side of things. And that in combination with the S&P being weak is just a sign that maybe it's time to either be bearish or just take a vacation, buy the dip when you get back. That's kind of what I've been doing. Any questions to that? I'll go over the other time frames as well. Voice somehow sexier, Doug. Thank you. It's I actually killed my microphone on the travel here, so I'm using my noise canceling headphones, which I'm surprised actually work just fine. How come your Twitter is private? My Twitter is private because of all the bots. It's been bad. I've been getting shadow banned because of the bots, so I've just been like, fuck it. Still hoping for Litecoin or sold. So with the, I can talk about Litecoin real quick because a bunch of people have like added me. I went on vacation without taking any of my trading stuff with me, right? And basically, when I was leaving, Litecoin was starting to invalidate, right? So I said, told you guys, like I bought this support. There's 110-ish support here weekly, and Litecoin closed pretty much the exact week after, just a few percent lower, which invalidated the setup, right? So like the USD setup is invalidated. This was like a inverse head and shoulder play, but I didn't sell because I'm on vacation. So I could see myself just hold this to $50 or something because this is a bearish setup, right? Like a bullish setup that fails is a bearish setup. So I could take a massive haircut here. I don't like how it looks, especially if crypto, like if Bitcoin goes lower, Litecoin is just gonna completely dump. And this is like a lot of the altcoins are setting up for a capitulation event that I mean we've seen before, right? These kind of events where they have like somewhat of floor. This was the Litecoin in 2018, has a floor at 50 and then goes all the way to 20, right? And I could see this play out the same way. But yeah, I'm still in it. So if I'm fudding it right now at the bottom, so be it, because I mean, nice, then it goes up. But yeah, I don't like the setup. Setup's invalidated. I mean, I talked about the setup, right? So you can do with that what you want. I'm still stuck in it, and I'm not going to be able to sell for the next 3 weeks because I'm on holiday for the next 3 weeks. So I'm not going to be able to dump on you, but you can dump on me if you want to. My altcoins positions are never like huge. I'm going to take a loss if this goes down, but it's not going to end my world in that regard. So yeah, kind of looking tough. Not the best outcome, right? Like when you have like this kind of clear setup, you want it to close above, not below. So there you go. Back to Bitcoin we go. I hope that answered the question anyway. Which is basically I'm stuck. I'm a bag holder. Is what it is. Shit happens. Maybe I get lucky. Sometimes you get lucky in these positions, but that's obviously not what trading is, right? As a trader, that's never something you should do. Be stuck in a position that you don't want to be in. Isn't market structure bullish since the low? Yeah, but it's not holding support. So thanks. What about Litecoin Bitcoin? Is that any better? I mean, Litecoin Bitcoin never has been good. That's the thing. You look at Litecoin Bitcoin, it's always been trending down, right? So not really, no. This was basically a double bottom setup, and that didn't play out either. So it's just not looking too good. The only thing that this has going for it is that the momentum is slowing on the the sell-off. And I talked about this last week, where it's like either this goes up massively or it just dumps. And right now, just given the USD pair, it looks more likely to dump. But who knows? Like my gut feeling is not bullish. Anyway, there's no real support anywhere on this chart. Hate to say it. looking to convert those Litecoin into a Bitcoin position or sell into USD. I mean, if I get home and it still looks this shit and it's still bearish, I'm gonna sell into USD because I don't have a fuck. Did the stream just die? Like the internet in Bahamas? No, I'm not in the Bahamas. I'm still in Europe. And I gotta say, like I went for the surf, and the surf's been tiny, which sucks a little bit, but it's what it is. Let me actually nuke NordVPN. Maybe that makes it better. Okay. Um, yeah, I think like it's legitimately maybe it's my computer actually. It's getting a little bit hot. It's kind of dying. Audio still okay. Yeah, I think it's legitimately my computer dying because uh, yeah, I don't have like a proper desk setup here. No audio. Let me. It should be working. I think it's gonna be working just fine. Okay. So yeah, that was like the high time frame stuff. Let me know if it doesn't work, and I'll see if I can make it work. But it should be getting better now. Um, yeah, I briefly talked about this false breakout, right? What does that mean? It basically means that you would want to like just how ranges work, right? You have a range, you have a false breakout above, you expect it to go to the range low, right? Jesus Christ, drawing like this is so hard. Um, which basically means you'd have to target 31.7 to 34K. And I still think that's somewhat of a decent support. So given that the monthly has support there and the weekly has support there, probably worth playing. I don't really see too much bearish momentum other than the S&P momentum that we've had, which doesn't mean it can't come in, but it just seems like crypto is just like lying there, just following the S&P. So if the S&P mega crashes, it's gonna crash with it. But if it doesn't, I don't really think crypto is going anywhere. Right now, anyway, it's gonna take a little bit longer. The problem for a lot of you guys, let me see if everything works. Okay, perfect. Fine now. Nice, nice. Happy to hear that. The problem with this going sideways is actually in the altcoin sector, right? And this is something that a few people talk about, like a handful of people talk about it, but not that much. And that's basically that the you have more and more altcoins, right? Every single month you get more altcoins. Altcoins go up in number, but obviously not in price, right? So the entire altcoin sector, we can actually write this down here. The altcoin sector is inflationary, right? And this should be really obvious just by looking at it, but people tend to forget. So what that means is that there's every single day there's new altcoins, and the bid that you have in the altcoin sector obviously gets diluted by that, right? So while the crypto markets are going sideways, and maybe even altcoins as a whole don't really lose value, your altcoin is obviously going to, because there's going to be new altcoins that get added to the mix, and those are going to take money away from the ones that already exist, and that leads to falling prices, right? So prices go down even if nothing happens, because as funny as it is, being that like people are like, oh shit, crypto is crypto is so nice because it's not like the dollar that gets inflated away. Altcoins as a whole are pretty much 10 times worse than any kind of currency that you have in the world, just based on the fact that not only are a lot of them actually inflationary, so they get like they either unlock tokens over like a couple of years, and that's like in the realm of like 10 to 20%, or you have just new altcoins enter the fray and take bit away, right? So the longer this goes sideways without retail putting money in, um, the more the altcoins are going to bleed, right? So there's a good chance that we never break below 30K on Bitcoin, and a person's net worth in crypto still goes to basically zero, right? And that's something that you have to be aware of when you're holding altcoins, because the longer you hold them, the more inflated the way you get. So you only really want to trade altcoins when there's new money coming in, because otherwise the bubble can't sustain itself, right? You have to have a shitload of money come in to hold up prices and to hold up the bid. And that's something that people tend to forget. And I think that's what a lot of people have been feeling in the last few weeks to months. There's only a few select projects that have been going well. Everything else just been kind of like starting to bleed out. And that's because it's inflating away. And as long as Bitcoin doesn't escape this, that's probably going to continue, because no one's really interested in crypto unless you get big headlines, right? And the NFT stuff has been getting big headlines, but it's not been leading to much outside of the NFT space. So the coins have still been doing pretty poorly. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of what we have going. It's a little bit of a problem. It's obviously, if you're not holding all coins, you don't give a shit, but it's something that you have to keep in mind if you are, because you have to be really, really right to make that work in this kind of market condition, in these kind of market conditions. Volume slowly going down. No, I think that's just you, mate. Okay, let me see. Where should I close my short? I short Bitcoin. If you short Bitcoin, I think 34K, 34.2K, or above 43K is where you want to be closing shorts and considering buying. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to, if I'm home and it looks nice and the S&P looks like it's capitulated enough, I'm going to buy the support again, as stupid as I'm going to feel like when I'm doing it. Don, could you maybe very briefly talk about how you manage risk? For example, do you have a fixed percentage of your capital that you risk on each trade, or do you do those things differently? So back in the day, I had a fixed amount that I was willing to lose on any given trade. Nowadays, that's not really the case. If I have high conviction, I put in more. If I have lower conviction, I put in less. And I like when I'm trading altcoins, for example, I'm very rarely in the percent range, right? So like if I lose my Litecoin trade and it goes down 50%, I'm not gonna lose a percent of my net worth, right? Now, if Bitcoin went to 20K and I thought that there was a big opportunity there, I wouldn't have a problem risking a lot of my trading capital, right? By saying, okay, I'm going to buy at 20K, and as like an investment, uh, as well as a trade. And then I'm fine with risking 10, 15, 20% easily. So it really depends. Like if there's like a black swan event, sometimes you just have to dig deep and risk something. But like in these kind of circumstances, if you're just taking like a daily trade, you don't want to risk much, because like these kind of setups, there's a million of them, and there's a lot of fake outs, and there's a lot of shit going left and right, and it's just not worth it, right? So it depends on how good the setup is. If everything goes to shit like it did back in March, and to be honest, like the only reason why I traded this, like not the only reason, but one of the main reasons why I traded this not as well as I should have, because I bought the lows here, right? I bought the lows. We went on live stream and we talked about it straight after it mega mooned, and I sold really early. And the only reason why I sold too early was because I bought too much, right? So sometimes it's actually more like better to buy less, risk less, because it's going to be easier to hold. And I felt like this was a great opportunity back then. Bought too much and then got nervous on the way up, which I didn't really see back then. But I think like in hindsight, I can kind of analyze myself and kind of figure out that that's what was going on. And if I bought like 50% less, I would have held probably during like most of the move. So like for me, like I bought low, took it higher, and then had to buy back in much higher, right? Which is fine from a trader perspective, like completely fine, but it's not how I want to be trading, right? Like sometimes there's big opportunities. This was obviously one. There was one back here, and if there's going to be another one going to 20K or something like that, because stocks melt down or something happens, I'm gonna risk more again, but not something where I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose too much. Hope that answers your question, but it depends. Is my answer, and obviously the bigger your net worth gets, and the bigger like the more money you have, the less likely you're going to risk it all. And I mean, it just makes sense, right? If you're putting in one grand into crypto, you might be ready to lose all of it. But if you're putting in like 10 years of work that you've been like building your portfolio or working for, probably not the wisest idea to risk it all. Where do you surf in Germany? I'm not in Germany. In Germany, there's no surf. Any dating advice for Johnny Depp? No, no. Just, I mean, never go too crazy. A little bit crazy, I guess, is fine. But then again, like I should not be giving dating advice in that regard because the little bit crazy people attract me for some reason. Also, with 90% of exchanges not working during capitulation, it's hard to buy bottoms. I mean, oftentimes you have days, right? It's not like, yeah, the exchange is locked up during this. And if you didn't get lucky or didn't have like an API entrance to all of this, you didn't get to buy like the low, but you got to buy like 4K. Like we can go back. I don't know if the 4 hour does go back that far, but we can go back and see. It does. Nice. So exchange is locked up, and then you got this, right? This candle. Even if you didn't manage to trade all of those 4 hours, you still got an entry in the 4.5K region, which is arguably okay. That's like a little bit higher, but there's like 18%, right? And even if you're arguing, okay, it went like 30% higher, this is the run that we've had afterwards, right? So the exchange locking out doesn't really prevent you too much from buying, right? This is like the best sign that you're going to get. And it's been the same ever since the exchanges just died on drops, that you can get a buy like in coming days, even if you missed it because the exchange died. So it's not necessarily the best thing to blame. Now with the lower time frame stuff, right? Because we're just going slowly through Bitcoin. I hope you guys don't mind. Like I said, I hope this setup doesn't annoy you too much with me switching around looking at the chat because I mean, yeah. Um, but yeah, so lower time frame wise, just looking at this really briefly is we got rejected by resistance and we got rejected by resistance, right? And so far support's just not been holding. And we talked about when we were trading up here, I was like, this is a nice like breakout and all, but it really shouldn't have tested the support again. I mean, if this reminds you of something, it's basically the monthly. You know, like you get into support, you bounce a little bit, get straight back into support. It's not something you want to be seeing because you open up the door to kind of crash through. That said, the monthly does have a little bit more support going for it than like daily time frames, right? So in general, people with more money look at the monthly a little bit closer, like the monthly supports. I would argue that's the majority of the TA that is done with like on with big wallets basically betting on something is done on the higher time frames, not on the lower ones. So I'm suspecting that the monthly is going to hold for a little bit longer than it has, like the daily has here. But I argued that it was shitty that it retested, and if it falls back, that's going to be really bad news, and that's what it did, right? And ever since then, what we've been basically doing is made our way to support, held for a little bit, didn't show any sign of reversing, and then just fell through. Same thing here, right? All the way to support, kind of ran into resistance again, held a little bit at support, and then fell through. And now what we've been doing is bearishly retesting resistance. Like this was support, now it's resistance. Not a good combination. So it makes sense to kind of be like, even on the lower time frames, makes sense to be a little bit on the bearish side of things until at least 40K is reclaimed, right? If 40K is reclaimed, you could argue chop, and you could argue like if you really wanted to be bullish, you could argue you want to be bullish and you can buy that. But right now, it's really hard to make the bullish case, right? So we went through the monthly, not the best thing in the world, but it's approaching support. Supports like in the 35 to 37 region, 35K being the better one, in my opinion. Then you go to the weekly, and there's support at 30, roughly 32 to 34. So you have like support at 34 and on the weekly, and on 35 on the monthly. And you go to daily, and you have support in that region as well, right? So that's a lot of confluence between 35, 34 on all time frames. So if this should crash down, I like that support a lot. That's kind of the area to look out for. If that gets run over, we just take a haircut of like 30 or 40% in a day. Just the typical kind of crypto thing. But like I said, I don't think that happens if the S&P doesn't make a dump. Is that clear? Does that make sense to you guys? Because it does to me. And the reason why I left is because I don't want to deal with this shit. Would you be shorting more if it went for the tax laws in Germany? Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes it itches. Like I've done like I've put like a Bitcoin on an exchange where I know like no matter what happens, right? Like I see like these high opportunity shorts, like for example, like in here, I put like one Bitcoin on the exchange and then just like 20x shorted or 30x shorted just for fun. If it goes, I'm just not gonna report it as a loss. Take that like tax loss basically. And if it makes money, doesn't really matter, right? Because the tax situation in Germany is like if you make losses, it's bad. If you make wins, it's not that bad. So in regards to a leverage trading, right? So sometimes I do that if I get bored. Did it here, but closed it pretty soon after. I think like at 40 something, because I was like, fuck it. Obviously went lower, is what it is. But yeah, I don't really mind not doing it anymore. It's much more chill. If I was still in the position where I could easily short, I could see myself just withering away at the computer because shorts just take the life out of you. You just sit there and you want to watch the world burn, and it's the other side of the trade is much nicer. Even though like I feel like there's a bunch of short setups that have been really excellent. So definitely making less money than I could, but I don't need to short, so I don't. So yeah, 35K is where I close my short. Sure, yeah. Where's cred? So I missed the stream on Wednesday. So I'm doing this one. Sorry about that. I just had a date that went better than I originally thought. So didn't want to call it short, and just decided to like not go on the date with you guys, but with her instead. So did that on Wednesday, and then yesterday I noticed I was out all day, and then noticed that my microphone was broken. So I was just like, fuck it. And that's why I'm doing today, and he's going to do the weekends, like tomorrow or the day after. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, Bitcoin is more correlated to Nasdaq, I think. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Both are. Nasdaq is more closely tracking, but really it doesn't really make much of a difference. I I prefer the S&P, but it's just personal preference. You could do the same with the Nasdaq. It's the same thing. But yeah, that's Bitcoin. With regards to ETH, right? ETH was actually really interesting because I mean, if you look at it on the weekly, it's the same story that we had on Bitcoin, it's just time delayed, right? So had a false breakout and fell below. Looked stronger than Bitcoin for a while, but now it actually looks weaker even than Bitcoin does. And I don't really have any support for ETH, which is a little bit scary because the next support's at 2K. So Bitcoin is obviously not like the support for Bitcoin isn't that far away. For ETH, it's 30%, and that has me a little bit worried. But yeah, I don't really see good reason to be bullish ETH unless it shows some strength, right? You don't want to be the guy that just didn't buy during the entire uptrend and then start buying when the downtrend confirms, right? And this false breakout coupled with this false breakout is just bad news, right? It's the same as with Bitcoin. And no matter how good the tech you think it is, right? Once crypto stuff, especially if it's not Bitcoin, starts trending down, it trends down hard, right? So goes up, obviously during uptrends, it goes up a lot, but you can see that during downtrends, I mean, this was pretty brutal. Doesn't have to repeat one to one, doesn't even have to go like half as far, but this was a 95% drawdown. Um, if it only goes down 90%, right, that'd still be huge. I'm not expecting it to, but if it did the same thing that it did in the past, right, I mean, it starts getting absurd. So this is still, in my opinion, still an altcoin until it proves itself otherwise. And I think yeah, I think I'm back. I just got wrecked for a second. Let me know if I'm back because, yeah. Okay, perfect. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's when I'm on vacation, it's a little bit more difficult to stream because while the internet is very good, the stability is less so. So what I was talking about was that yeah, ETH is a little bit troublesome, just given the fact that the support is so far. Because what usually happens during crashes is that Bitcoin hits the support and ETH hits the support, and then they both bounce. In this instance, it doesn't really look likely. So what you can do if you want to buy ETH instead of Bitcoin at Bitcoin lows, if we should crash, which I like. Nice, I think we're back. We are actually. Wi-Fi off and on again? Yes, yes. Let me know if it's back, but I think it is. Let's see how long it holds up. If it doesn't, I'm just going to nuke the stream, and then I mean we talked about the most important stuff anyway. So yeah, sorry about this. I fucking hate when it's not stable. But yeah, how you can kind of take advantage of this kind of stuff is um, is by looking at where's Bitcoin support if it does go down, right? And then you can just buy ETH once Bitcoin hits support if you don't have the support on ETH itself. And that's the easiest way to go about it. That's how I kind of buy the altcoin bottoms that I want to be buying because oftentimes the altcoins just have no support, right? If you look at, just let me pick a random one, Serum, for example, right? I mean, these supports all long gone. Which support do you want to be buying? I mean, there's one down here, but like let's say there is none. Let's say it's just been bleeding out longer, and then it starts capitulating. Where the fuck do you want to be buying, right? And the answer is you don't know. But there's a chance that if this, and I mean Serum is, I don't know, I'd probably not be buying Serum, right? But if you have a decent altcoin here, there's a chance that the moment Bitcoin capitulates, if it ever does, that's also going to be the bottom for Serum, right? So you buy once you see Bitcoin hit important supports, even though you don't have any on the coin itself. It's a way to go. ETH crash by year areas, like I said, just make it off of Bitcoin. I don't think, unless we go down big time, which I'm not expecting for the next week or two or three or four, if unless we just crash to 2K, you just want to be buying the support off of Bitcoin, which I mean, Bitcoin support, the next one is pretty close by, right? Even though it looks like it's a huge move, it's pretty close by. So yeah. Okay, that's ETH. Like I said, not too interesting. We can talk about ETH BTC, but really there's nothing there, right? The scary part about ETH BTC is actually that you have like the opposite setup that we've had on a bunch of altcoins, which is like monthly, like this is starting to form into like a monthly breakout that didn't do anything. And I mean, this pattern should be familiar to you by now. So that's not the best sign in the world, but doesn't have to mean anything. The ETH BTC pair is not the most traded one. But if it starts breaking down properly on ETH BTC, don't fade it, is my best advice. But yeah, I'm not like, even though like all of these charts are so bearish, right? You look at the monthly, that's not good. You look at the weekly, that's not good. You look at the daily, that's not good. In my mind, which could be complete cope, but then again, I don't have much money in crypto right now. All of this move has really been the S&P just completely shitting the bed, right? So it's not really crypto specific. And we know like if the S&P just does something like it's done before, like we eat shit, right? But as long as you're not expecting a traditional market meltdown, I don't really see a reason to be like too panicky. Um, so if you bearish crypto, or if you bearish crypto, like if you bearish Bitcoin at least, um, what you're basically betting on is the S&P falling through the floor, which I mean is a fair bet to make, but I think that's something that you have to keep in mind, right? I see a bunch of people being like, okay, Bitcoin is going to 20K again. That is only going to happen if the Nasdaq and the S&P go down basically all the way to like down here, and why this is, yeah, like all the way down here ish, like 25%, and that'd be a historic drop again. You can bet on that, but you have to kind of understand that's kind of what you're trading, in my opinion. So yeah, I think I actually don't really have much more to say. Litecoin, like I said, it's pretty rough. In comparison to other altcoins, it's doing okay, but that is not really the kind of standard that you want to have. And yeah, like I said, I'm gonna probably eat shit on this, is what it is. And yeah, the other altcoins, like the state of the market, right, is best described by Dogecoin, right? Elon Musk buys Twitter. Dogecoin is his baby, and we get this kind of candle, right? You get an up move into almost full retrace. And that is not the best sign in the world, right? Retail's not interested in crypto. And I think, like, honestly, this time around, we've well and truly fucked the view the normies have of crypto, right? This cycle has been the one where normies think, or like started to think that one, crypto destroys the environment, two, it's all Ponzi's, and three, that it's a bunch of money laundering, right? And that is like people laugh about it, people make joke about it in crypto, but that's a bad thing. That's really, really bad, because It makes regulation much easier to push through, right? If you have like a regulator that doesn't like crypto, it's much easier to push something against crypto if the majority of the population doesn't like it, no matter how good or bad it is. And also, people are just less likely to invest, obviously. Like, would I invest in something that I absolutely detest? Probably not. And that's a problem because if you want to have your Ponzi's pump, then you need retail to buy them. Like I said, and that's the altcoin bubble. Is like it's funny because it's not popped. It's just been deflating, and yeah, uh, scary sight to see. But like, look at this. There's been constant deflation, right? It's not necessarily okay. This goes down 90%, 95%, like we've seen in the past, where some stuff just rug pulls. There's just been on a log chart. You can see even better, just constant. No new money comes in, and a little bit of the old money leaves, and Dogecoin is also inflationary, so you get like a sell-off. So unless recession, no proper bear market. I don't think so. Yeah. Don't do you allocate it in one specific stable or spread it out in different stables? I have it in the different, like I have a bunch of stables, different ones, and I also have a bunch on Coinbase, and I have a bunch in other exchanges, and I have a bunch on my bank accounts, which I don't have access to while traveling. I've actually like my recent travels have been a lot of fun, and I've tried something completely different this time around, which is just going with a bunch of friends, like university friends from back in the day, and yeah, just generally like just normal people, and it's been a great experience. Just tagged along to their travels, basically, just doing everything they're doing, and it's been fun. Less fancy than usual. I mean, I don't really do fancy holidays, but even less so. But yeah, I actually really like it. Get out, experience the real world, and then these kind of numbers that we have in crypto make even less sense actually, which is funny. Like if you see like a NFT sell for 250,000, talking with actual people that work normal jobs is an eye opener. Um, doesn't have to mean like that's a good or bad thing, but it's an eye opener nonetheless. Tell friends chat said hi. I will. Is this weird to be retired and see your friends still working? Does this impact some of your relationships? Um, so far, like I mean, it's a little bit weird maybe, but I have really good friends, so it's not really a problem. You make it sound like it's holiday with the booze. No, it's me saying that I don't know. Like sometimes you just gotta change it up a little bit, and yeah, that's what I'm doing. Do you talk about crypto with your normie friends? What do you answer when they ask you what to buy? I tell them not to buy anything. I've always done that. Or like at least I tell them like if they want to buy something to buy Bitcoin, but to treat it as an investment and to stay away from altcoins. That's what I've always been saying. Um, and if they then come back and ask for more, then I tell them other stuff. But most of the time, like you don't want to be the guy that gives other people investment advice in real life. It just never ends up well. Um, and that's the same with family. I also tell them to just stay away, or if they're like super interested, to do whatever they want, but to not involve me. Basically, it's not worth. Um, it's not worth it to kind of go through that process, in my opinion. Anyway, it's not something like I don't want to have my real life contacts ask me about finances all the time. Like that's a shitty relationship to have, in my opinion. If you just start being like the financial advisor of your family and friends instead of being a family member and a friend. But that's just me personally. So yeah, there you go. That's a slice of life in the otherwise normal stream. Yeah, with regards to your altcoins, I mean, you see the list is completely red, so I don't really think we need to talk about much. Even the setups that look good kind of got invalidated by this weekly candle for Bitcoin, which is unsurprising, really, right? And yeah, that's that. I think that's more than plenty. Any other questions? We can run through like a few. Dating advice for friends, at least. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that. It's just like I don't know. I don't like mixing money and real life. The biggest advantage that crypto has to me is that it's just like a different world, right? So you can dip into that world and then you go out of it and then it's just gone and you can just live your life normally. That's why I like the somewhat anonymity that the space offers because um, you close you close the laptop and then you're back in the real world, and it's really nice, I think, because if everything is connected and everything in your life is about money, it's just not good. Market is red, nothing to talk about there. Let's talk about how to set up Tinder profile, dude. We can do like maybe we do like a dating stream again, and then I actually show this kind of shit. Not with my real pictures or whatever, but like and we can go and run through something like that. I don't mind. At some point, not in the next few weeks, but at some point. Um, I feel like that's more interesting than crypto now. At least to some of you, which is gonna be on Twitch again then if I do it. Start flipping the profile picture again? No, I was so much harassment that I took that it's just not worth it for me. Because like, let's say I flipped it, right? Let's say I flipped it the moment I turned bearish on Bitcoin, right? That would have been up here, right, at 60K. Now, us would still be right, right? The bearish buyers would still make sense. But then people come to me and they're like, yeah, Bitcoin was like at 60K. But Bored Apes went to like 4x during that time since you flipped the profile picture. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And this kind of like these kind of arguments I had to deal with the entire fucking time every time I did it. It's not worth it. And then even worse, if you're wrong for some time, let's say I flipped it. Let's say I flipped it down here after the breakdown. And those kind of 2 weeks of green, people just got all up in my business, and it's just not worth it. So I've retired that concept. I mean, I've been telling you what I've been thinking, right? And that has to be enough. You don't need to have like a straight up profile picture facing one way or the other, because yeah, that stressed me out. It stressed me out more, which is kind of funny because it makes no sense whatsoever, but it stressed me out more than some of my trades have been stressing me. Like it's just been like you click on Twitter and you dread what stupid shit people have been writing again. And that was like the last time that I flipped it was bullish at 14K or something. And that's gonna be the end of it. Um, just not gonna do it again. Hey Don, can you confirm this is the most stupid moment to sell? No, the most stupid moment to sell would be 34K support, I think. At current market conditions anyway. If we go to 34K again, bounce to 36, and then don't have any follow through, then you can sell at 36, even though it's lower than 38K right now, because then you actually have like a good case to make. But I wouldn't want to sell monthly support just on the second test, right? So it's not necessarily the best moment to sell. It's not it's not the worst, but it's pretty shitty given where we are in the macro. But there's a chance that if you don't sell, it goes all the way down to 20K, and then you're sitting on a 50% loss, and then you're gonna come back to me and say, "Hey Don, why did you say that?" And the answer is, dude, I told you at when we lost 60K or like this support here, this breakout, that we were in deep shit, right? And that's the thing with trading, right? There's oftentimes only one chance that you get. to sell. Like with buying, you get more chances than one, but with selling, there's oftentimes only one that makes sense, and then afterwards everything makes less sense. So right now, I don't fucking know, but I would not want to be selling into 34K support. That's why I'm glad I sold into higher support or like failure of that support anyway. Sounds stupid, sounds like I'm bragging. I'm not. It's just how it is sometimes, right? You gotta be like, you get invalidated, you gotta be quick. And if you're not quick, you're gonna have to sell in a stupid place one way or the other. Because you lost this, right? You lost this range, you go down. Now, like, you could tell me the same question in here, right? And I could tell you it's not the worst place to sell. It's still relatively close to range high, but you could have like sold higher, right? And then it goes down lower, and then it's at range low. I'm gonna tell you, okay, it's not a good place to sell, but it could still go lower, right? It's just how it is. So yeah, tough question to answer. It's always bad, like when people have like a position that they didn't really reason themselves into with good reasons. Like what the fuck kind of advice do you give, right? Let's say you bought waves at the highs, right? Because you were like afraid of missing out. Now, if you ask me, what should I be doing here? Should I be selling or buying? Like, what the fuck do I tell you? Everything is gonna be shit. I'm not gonna tell you to buy because I think this is like legitimately fucked. But like with regards to selling, if I tell you to sell now, there's a good chance it bounces all the way back to 22, and then you're gonna be angry with me. But there's also a good chance it just goes to fucking zero. So like, there's no good advice left in this anymore. If you're in a waste position, you fucked up already, right? You should have been out of this position long ago. And if you bought down here and have like a good plan, then listen to that plan, right? But if you're in it without a plan, there's a good chance you're just fucked because there's no good advice. There's no good move to make here. There's a chance it just goes and disappears. There's also a chance it bounces a little bit. So I can't really give good advice. There's always a time and a place for good advice, and then if that time and place goes away, it's just going to be shitty advice because no matter what you do, it's a tough situation, right? It's like entering a new trade, basically. Like, would I tell anyone to buy this dip? No. Would I tell anyone to short into a move that has gone from 50 or now $60? I hate this. $60 all the way down to 14, which is almost 80% decline. Probably not, like I wouldn't want to be shorting that either. So given I wouldn't long and I wouldn't short it, what the fuck do I do? I stay away. But if you come to me and ask me what should I do, I'm in this position, then it's really tough to give an answer because I wouldn't short it, so I wouldn't be selling it, but I would also not be buying it. So yeah. So yeah, there you go. Can you review the Litecoin trade, please? I mean, Litecoin is just basically a failed setup. I'm still in it, but it's a failed setup, so I should be out of it. But I don't have access to anything. Um, so yeah, there you go. Like I said, this is an inverse head and shoulder setup. It's a shitty one, but it's like worth it to play it because it's the last time you can buy it before it disappears. It closed below the left shoulder, so the trade's invalidated, obviously, and ever since then it's been going down, and there's not really good support. So I should be out of it. I'm not because one, like the position isn't so big that I'd go broke, and two, I just don't have access. If I had access, I would have probably sold it on this weekly close. So that's the update of Litecoin. Now, is there a chance that it goes up again? Yeah, there is. It's just not a trade setup anymore, right? Like the trade setup has failed. If you're investing in Litecoin, you can do that. But the trade setup has failed. And I'm like now a Litecoin back holder. It would be so funny if I took like a 50% haircut on this shit because I've been the biggest Litecoin hater of all. So yeah, there you go. Fighting my own backs. Thoughts on Ape? Um, I actually haven't looked at it in a while, which I should have probably, but yeah, this is like a parabolic blow off. I would not get involved. There's a chance it goes up, right? But with everything, so it goes like that. But it's not too parabolic actually. But went a little bit. You can see how it started accelerating and then just kind of fell through the floor. And yeah, this is a bunch of news-driven stuff as far as I know, which means yeah, my ITA doesn't really like make too much sense. There's like this land sale stuff coming that I have no idea what it's all about. So I'm not the perfect guy to ask. The one thing that I can tell you is basically if you don't have a position and you want to have one, I think above $23 is probably better than at $20, even though it's going to be a higher price because this is going to be resistance. And on top of this, it's like this is a news-driven move. So depending on how the stuff goes, it can just do wild things. So I wouldn't necessarily trade this during news events. Going into news events like a week, 2 or 3 before, obviously, but I think this land sale thing is right around the corner. Correct me if I'm wrong, which just means just keep your hands off of it. I usually tend to say like you have an announcement, right? So you have a timeline, you have an announcement of something coming, maybe in Discord or somewhere early on, smart people start buying, right? And then it comes into like the public knowledge, traders start buying, and then this is where actually the event occurs. This is 2 weeks out, and then a bunch of people that feel FOMO start buying. And at some point, these FOMO guys start running out of money, right? And those are the only people left to kind of push it higher. And what you want to be seeing basically is in the last 1 or 2 weeks, you want to get rid of your positions, right? Going into like the event itself. And then if the event goes well, you want to wait a few days to see if it's actually not dumping, because what often happens is that like in these 1 or 2 weeks, it's actually dumping a lot. It went up a shitload during this time. 1 or 2 weeks out, it starts dumping. It dumps during the event, and then either it completely disappears or it actually holds well, and people like whatever the event was or did, and then you can start positioning yourself again. But during these 1 or 2 weeks, I just don't trade this kind of stuff. Um, Now, is there money to be made in those weeks? Yes, but this is like the less risky move. This is where, yeah, you can buy and you can be up 2x, but that 2x can disappear during 1 4 hour candle or two as well, right? As you can see here, where and I don't know how far out the news are, or like the event is or whatever, but like there was a 25% decrease in basically 8 hours, and that's just how this stuff goes if you have like something driven like that, and that's obviously gonna suck if you bought there. So yeah, hope that helped. I'm gonna call it a day. I want to have like enjoy my evening. It's Friday after all, and I'm invited to like a bunch of friends are leaving today, so I'm gonna have a few beers with them, and yeah, enjoying life as a normie, which is actually really nice. Can only recommend. And yeah, thanks for coming by. A big shout out to the sponsor of the show, which is FTX. Um, their mobile app is amazing. If you want to use mobile apps in crypto, you should check theirs out. And if not, it's also fine. If you do want to check them out, the links are in the description. And yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Sorry for the internet troubles. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. Don, we are all normies. I mean, that's true. That is true. Everyone is a normie at heart.